Okay, hello and welcome to the long-awaited stretching video. I'm sorry it's taking so long. I think I told you guys I would do it in summer and now it's November. But anyways, we're gonna get started right away. I want to tell you first that some things you might need or would be helpful are a tennis ball or some sort of small ball like this. Maybe a stress ball would work, but not as well. And then something else that could be helpful is this is we call it a wheat pillow, but you could also use like a heating pad. We put this in the microwave when you have aches and pains, and it's especially helpful if you have a super stubborn muscle that just won't untighten and the massage method isn't working. I'll be talking about this massage method later. You'll see me do it. But yeah, those things are super helpful, and this is mostly just a leg stretching tutorial. I can do more for you guys if you'd like, and I probably will because I think it'll be helpful, but let's get started. Okay, sorry, a couple more things. You want to make sure, of course, that you're warming up. I usually, before I do leg stretches, I'll do a more intense leg day. So like today I did squats and glute bridges and calf raises. So, and if you're really looking to improve your flexibility, which should be everyone, it's always a great thing. You can do this exercise for stretching every other day, and then on the off days, take a light day where you stretch lightly. I found that that works best for my muscles. It might not work best for you. Maybe you can go hard every day, but I found that my muscles react better if I have a day where I'm pushing pretty hard, but still being nice to my muscles, and then I give them a break so they're not super angry. I don't know. They just feel better. Okay, so I'm going to apologize in advance if this recording is really loud or messed up because I'm using my headphones because I don't have a proper microphone. But so what you want to do first is get in a butterfly pose. I am just rocking back and forth, and there's no music because I wanted to make sure that you guys could play your own music, but also listen to my voice if you wanted. But now I'm just circling forward, making sure that my back is flat. And if you want to think about kind of rotating your hips towards your feet, that'll help get more hip mobility. And just pushing forward, trying to keep that flat back, and then I finally curve forward. Next, I get into my straddle pose with pointed toes, reaching side to side again, trying to have a flat back, sitting straight up and rotating my hips, even though I'm not perfect, still trying. And then reaching over to my first side with my chest open, and I alternate between flexing and pointing my toes, and also using my muscles, either strengthening them, sorry, that's not the right word, flexing them, or releasing them, because then it helps you for your different positions that you're going to be stretching in. And then I face my knee, again alternating between flexed and pointed. And alternating between flexing and relaxing. And over to the other side with my chest open. You can only see one toe, but they're pointed. And now I'm flexing, holding it. I usually hold stretches for about an 8 count when I'm listening to music, but I've heard that holding stretches 30 to 90 seconds is ideal. So if you want to go for that, do it. Flexing the foot now. And now facing my leg, your goal should be to first hit your forehead to your knee, and then hit your nose to knee, and then get your chin to your knee. That's getting your back flatter and flatter and flatter against your leg. Now I'm just rocking back and forth, working out my hips and muscles in my upper legs. Right now I'm trying to massage one of my muscles. This muscle in particular I injured in the past, so it needs a little bit more attention. When I massage my muscle, it warms it up rather than, it's like a manual warm up rather than doing actual leg warm ups. And I always do the other side as well, because when I first got injured, I would only do the injured side. I would only massage the injured side, and I really noticed a difference that then that side was a lot more flexible than the other. So make sure whatever you do to one side, you also do to the other. And just rocking side to side again with more of an emphasis on leaning towards the center, trying to keep a flat back, and alternating between pointing toes and flexing. And then curving over and relaxing. As you can see, I'm not super flexible, but if I were to stretch every other day, like I suggested first, I would be lots more flexible. Okay, so I was just showing you that I was pointing my toes. I'm in a pike stretch, trying to keep as flat of a back as possible. This is my weakest stretch. And curving over, stretching down. You want to try to, again, get your forehead to knee, nose to knee, and chin to knee. Now I'm flexed. I'm pulling my toes back. Now I'm holding the side, the outside of my foot, and pulling like my pinky toes back towards my body. It's stretching a different muscle in my calf. I'm taking one hand, aiming for the opposite foot, and stretching my shoulder muscle. I'm trying to show you where that is. And stretching the other side. And that's where the muscle is that I'm stretching. Sorry. And then I repeat this whole sequence again. I think I mostly do it because it feels good to do it again after I've already been stretched out, but it really does help to see yourself stretch further. And if you're stretching further, then you're improving and you get to see that improvement right away. I'm doing those circles again, trying to keep my back flat, rotating my hips towards my toes. Getting back in the straddle, side to side. Then over, opening my chest, pointing my toes. When you're doing these stretches, going from one side to another, you want to make sure that your opposite leg is still staying on the ground. You don't want to have any airspace under your opposite leg. And I don't know if you can tell, but I've already been going further. I can touch my nose to my knee now, when the first time through I couldn't. Still could flatten my back a lot. And to the other side, pointed toes, open chest. Flex toes. Again, you want to alternate between flexing, pointing your toes, and then also flexing and relaxing your muscles for the different positions you might be stretching in when you're, say, performing. Like, if you're going to do a jump, you're not going to be loosey-goosey in your legs. They're going to be flexed, as in your leg muscles, not your feet. Your feet will be pointed. And I'm just rocking it out again. This is mostly for my hips and also I feel it in my sides as well. And working out that injured muscle, it's super cool, love it. This is where if this muscle was being super stubborn, I would consider heating up my wheat pillow that I showed you earlier, using a heating pad and just letting it sit on that muscle for a few minutes. Rocking it out again. Just kind of doing what feels nice and then stretching forward, aiming for that flat back. My toes are flexed at this point, and I should alternate to pointing. Yep, there we go. Trying to stretch further. You can't see, but my fingertips are stretching. And then rounding out and walking back to pike. I have pointed toes. And I switch to trying to flat back. Using my ankles to pull my body forward. If you feel like you can't go forward anymore, sometimes it's nice to get next to some sort of stationary object, even maybe a human, and pull on them and use that as leverage to get closer to your legs. I have flexed toes. I was doing the pulling toes back, and now I'm pulling my pinky toes back, or at least the sides of my feet. And stretching my shoulder muscles. Okay, and that's it for this portion. All right, this next part is to stretch your right and left splits. First, I'm getting into a pigeon pose, and I'm just rocking back and forth because my legs still aren't entirely warmed up, or more or less my hips aren't entirely warmed up. Then make sure that your foot is towards the inside of your body. I'm stretching back. Make sure that when you're stretching back, you're squared off, your shoulders are over your hips, and then stretching forward. And just relax here. Then coming back up, stretching back again. Now I'm bringing my back foot up behind me. First I bring it to the side, kind of. Just use my arm to kind of hold it in place. And then bring it more towards the middle of my back. These are stretching mostly your hamstrings. Then stretching back, trying to touch my head to my toe. Then coming up for a lunge. I always kind of have to pop my hip. Make sure that your knee is over your toe. And your goal should be to try to get your hip down to the ground. I don't know if that's really realistic, but it's a good goal, right? And then sitting back on my foot and extending that leg, pointing my toe, and I should try to have a flat back here. And then into my first splits. When you're in your split, make sure to not lean onto your front leg, if you know what I mean. Right now I'm leaning into my open side of my splits, I guess. And then holding a high V, stretching back and stretching forward. All of these different variations just make you more flexible. And now the other side. Pigeon pose. Again, make sure your foot is on the inside of your body. Don't sit on your foot here. I'm just rocking side to side again. And sitting straight up. And leaning back. Trying to keep my shoulders and my hips square. And coming forward. Just relaxing and trying to sink my hips into the floor. Coming back again and arching. Coming up, bringing that foot up from the back. Sorry. And using my arm to bring my foot to the side, and then the other arm to bring it towards the middle of my back. And then trying to touch my toe to my head. Almost there. And into the lunge. Again, popping my hip because it's weird. And make sure that your knee is over your foot. Don't have your knee come towards your toe. Then coming up on my hands. Again, having your goal be to sink your hips into the ground, even though you probably never will be able to. I don't know if anyone can. Then leaning back on that foot, make sure this is where you're sitting on your foot, not in the pigeon pose, and trying to have as flat of a back as possible. This is another really hard stretch for me. Can you tell? Then going into the left splits. Again, this is my injured side, so it's not that great. And I also tend to rush this side, which you definitely shouldn't do. Just take your time, be nice to your body. Leaning back. And leaning forward. Ideally, you should have a flat back when you're leaning forward. And coming out of it. And then this stretch, my hips were feeling super tight, so this is a nice stretch to almost kind of pop them and make them more mobile. You just lay on your back and roll out your hips. Make sure however many you do on one side, you do on the other side. I think I do 4 and 4 here. To make it more intense, you can obviously do more, or you could straighten your leg. And then you can also do both at the same time, but it looks really weird, so I didn't do it on video. And then we're done with this section, maybe? Nope. Okay, so forget what I call this stretch, but it's a really awkward one. So this is just prepping you for your middle splits. Make sure that you can't really see my knees right now, but you can tell that my hips and my knees are in one line. You don't want to have your hips super forward or super far back because then you're not stretching the proper muscles. Right now I'm leaning side to side, and don't lean just with your torso. Make sure your hips are moving in that. And then now I'm actually just moving my hips. It's really kind of awkward and the weirdest feeling, but it gets them more mobile. You could honestly like sit here forever, like watch TV. Especially if you're wearing like slippery leggings on carpet, helps you go farther. Okay, now I'm massaging that muscle again because I'm right about to do the middle splits and I haven't done them in a really long time, and I want to make sure that I'm taking care of my muscle and being nice to it. When I do my middle splits, I make sure to have my hands down to protect myself if I need to come up quickly. I start with my knees forward and then I rotate them up, always pointing my toes. And at the very end, I flex my toes and roll back. Ideally, you should hold your splits a lot longer, but haven't done them in a while. And then I just hug my legs, tell them thank you, and I'm sorry. And that's it for this section. Okay, this next part is probably one of my favorites. You're going to need your tennis ball and also a stack of books, which I should have told you to get earlier, but I didn't. And then I was deciding that we don't need the books yet. So we're going to work out our calves. Just place your tennis ball underneath your calf and roll it up and down your calf. Try to do 8 passes, so that'd be forward and back equals 1. And I'm just using my hands to lift up the rest of my body, so basically all of my weight is going on the tennis ball. And really try to move all over on your calf as you're going up and down. Go like up and down the middle, up and down the right side, up and down the left side. You could do this many more times than 8. It's kind of painful, but it's like a feel-good pain. It's really weird. Then switch to the other side. There are tons of different tennis ball workouts or stretches that you can do. I'm only showing you a few today. Okay, and then another stretch to do is to basically put the tennis ball right under your booty and feel where your sit bone is and move the ball all around that bone. This just helps if you have some really sore glutes or really tight glutes. It's also super helpful to wear more slippery clothing when you're doing this because especially for this one, if you're wearing loose clothing, your ball will just roll up in the clothing and it's not very effective. And see, like, I just gave up because it was rolling into my sweatpants. Okay, so now we're going to use the books. Figured out a good height for what I needed, and we are going to be stretching the inside of our upper leg. I think this is called your gracilis muscles. There's quite a few different muscles in there, so it could be something different. But we are aiming for 3 different points, which are near your knee, in the middle, and more towards the inside of your body. And the first one we're going to do is we put the tennis ball right near our knee, but not right on our knee, and you just roll it over that muscle back and forth. I try to go for 8 passes again. It's kind of hard, especially in the beginning when you're first starting to do this stretch because your muscles aren't used to it, and the ball might pop out and slip like it did before. Okay, now I'm transitioning to the middle of my leg, and you want to repeat these rolls or passes at the middle and also at the top of your leg. And if you're confused about which muscle you're trying to aim for at the top, I can show you which one. It's just the one that pokes out when you guys do your hip flexor exercises. But I didn't want to show you on the video because it ends up looking pretty weird. But that's the end of the video, and thanks for stretching with me.